Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Daniel Leathers. I'm here with my colleague Don Dennis, and we are representing the Tungsten Proteges Male Mentoring Program. We are based in Inglewood, California, and we serve the surrounding area. Our goal is to touch the lives of young men between the ages of 7 and 17, and we discuss various ways that our young men can have critical thinking skills, make quality life decisions, and overall be prepared for a successful trip as an adult man. So what we'd like to ask everyone to do is check us out on all of the social media channels that you use. You can like us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And also, please subscribe to our channel as well, as throughout the summer months. And when we get started up again in the fall, we'll be putting together videos such as this so you can see what it is that we're doing. So again, like, subscribe, and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram under Tungsten Proteges Male Mentoring. So today we're going to cover why studying is important. So one of the things that we've discussed in many of our sessions is that thinking is the hardest job in the world to do. There's all types of other things that are difficult, but actually thinking and using your critical thinking skills is very difficult. And I have a question for you, Don. After you graduate, are you done studying?
Well, you're done studying if you don't want to go anywhere in life.
Okay.
I mean, for the most part, first graduation you guys go to is from preschool or from kindergarten. And from there, you have to continue to study to learn how to read, learn how to write, learn how to add, subtract. And so, that's just some of the minor things that you're going to experience in your life as you progress and become a young man and progress into an adult. Afterwards, from there, you go to junior high school and you take more tests and you're going to have to prepare yourself and study. So you're not done. And even after you go through and graduate from high school, you're going to have to study, whether it's for an upcoming job interview, whether it's for a college interview, a college entrance exam, such as the SAT, the PSAT, the ACT, things of that nature. So you're always going to have to study. You're always going to have to find a way to get new information that you've never seen in your head, and not so much just memorize it, which is a part of education, but also understand how to get it in your head and use it to your best, find a strategy to use it so that it's effective for your use. So you can apply it, because everybody knows certain things. Everybody knows how to shoot a basketball, but if you don't have the basketball in your hand, you have to know how to play defense. So you have to be flexible. Or there's a certain way that you shoot a three-pointer as opposed to shooting a layup. So you have to know how to apply it. And everyone may know or have seen someone do it on TV, but it's a lot different from seeing someone else do it and then you have to do it yourself. And that's why you have to study, practice, and go back over things multiple times.
So some of the things some of the examples of why it's always important to learn and to study is that things always change. There's always new innovations. So you'll think of some of the examples of innovations in our lifetime. A lot of us grew up with tapes and CDs for music, but now you go to a store, it's very difficult to find those tapes and CDs because everything is MP3, can be purchased on iTunes. And then some of you watch us on YouTube, which we're very thankful for, and please share with your friends. YouTube has taken over the way a lot of people receive content. Before, folks would get their information from newspapers or magazines. Now, YouTube and other social media platforms took the audience away from those traditional forms of media. So these are things that we need to keep in mind, and we always want to make sure that you're studying, you're staying on top of things so that you can take advantage of the innovations. So again, the topic of this particular discussion is why it's important to study. So I'm going to give two examples of studying and my lifetime and what happened. So I'll give a bad example of not studying. So when I went to grad school, I was very excited. that I worked hard to get into grad school. And when I got in there, I was taking an accounting class. I thought I knew everything that I needed to know about accounting because I had taken it in undergrad and I had worked in the real world that I didn't need to study. So that test was on a Monday. The Sunday before, I knew I needed to study, but I said, you know what? I got this under control. And I decided to go out with some friends, hang out, have a Sunday fun day. And so the following Monday, took the test, and I wound up getting a D on the test, a D. So
And that wasn't for dynamite, right?
no,
Oh,
not for
okay. Or
dynamite.
dynamic.
No, it wasn't. A D for did not study. That's what that was. So didn't want to have to go through that again. So I was given another opportunity later in the semester and when we had the final. So first things first, I learned from my mistake. I did not want to go through that again. So what I did this time around is I became acclimated with the material as the semester went along. And I did that so that I did not have to cram the weekend before the test. However, I still dedicated time the weekend before the tests for studying specifically. So the Sunday fun day, that did not happen. Made sure to focus my energy on that, and I wound up getting an A on that test.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me interrupt you. When you say you dedicated time, we're talking to young people.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about dedicating time? Like 15 minutes, like in between playing a video game when you pause it? What kind of time are we talking about is necessary to go from getting that D to an A?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So so dedicated means that you block out the time that you already have it planned in your head that from this hour to this hour, all I'm going to do is study, and everything else is going to have to be put on the back burner. That's what dedicating the time means. Don asked about how much time did I delegate for it? How much time did I decide was necessary to study correctly? And the way I looked at it is for every hour that I was in class, I needed to spend 2 to 3 hours actually studying and going through the practice problems and going through the material so that I knew what it was that I needed to do. And so then the next piece is, I started off by saying the heartache that I went through that I caused myself, the self-inflicted harm, but then why go through that in the first place? So the next piece we're going to do is we're going to discuss ways that you can avoid that heartache. And Don, I'd like to pass it on to you for that.
Yeah, I want to follow up on something that Daniel was saying in terms of time. I mean, time, everybody knows themselves. So at the end of the day, if you're doing homework and it says, what's 2 plus 2? What's 10 times 10? What's the square root of 100? Or whatever the question might be, either you know the answer or you don't. So it's not so much a fixed amount of time that you have to decide you're going to spend. You need to continue to study until you know you can do it and you have it right. In addition, when you had that test, did you have all day to take the test? Or did
No.
they? So when you have tests, you have a certain time period that you have to do it. So you may know how to add up something, but you don't have all day to do it. So you have to practice and continue to practice and then time yourself to make sure you can answer questions in a certain amount of time. And if you can't show up at the test and act surprised if you run out of time, or act surprised if you practiced one time, you did it, and then a few times you didn't do it and you just said, I'll take my chances. This is not the lotto. This is not gambling. Either you can do it or you can't. So the best thing to do is look in the mirror, look at yourself, and ask yourself an honest question. Do I know how to do this math work? Do I know how to answer these questions for this history exam? Do I know my social studies work? And if I don't, that means I need to go back studying. So it may be longer than an hour. It may be longer than 2 hours. But if you're not moving efficiently, or if it's taking you longer, which sometimes it takes everyone longer to do things, then that means you have to spend more time. So don't get caught up necessarily with looking at your watch or looking at a clock, as opposed to asking yourself a real genuine question. Either you know the information and you can quickly give it back to the teacher in whatever form you have to give it, or you don't. And it's that simple. So we're talking about obstacles, and these are obstacles that occur with everyone in terms of studying and preventing you from achieving the maximum grades you want to achieve. So we all have obstacles. Daniel talked about having an obstacle of getting a lower performing grade, a D to be exact, on the first test, and he needed to overcome that obstacle. Sometimes when you're studying, like I took a lot of math work in school, calculus, all the way up to game theory, and when you're learning all these new things, and I took physics and I took chemistry, and believe me, it takes time to not only understand what the book is talking about, but then to be able to write it. Because when you're sitting in class, everything sounds real good. The professor's doing examples on the board. You're like, yeah, 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 that makes sense. And then when you go home and you're sitting by yourself in that room trying to study or at the library, it doesn't always work out as easy as it did in class. So that's one obstacle. So how can you bridge the gap? How can you overcome that problem of it made sense in class, but when I'm by myself, I'm not getting it? So we're going to talk about a few ways to do that. So because otherwise, when you show up at exams and you're not prepared, or you blank out, or you forget, it's a very bad feeling. You feel scared. You may feel fearful that you're going to get an F or a bad grade. You're going to fail the class. You may not have another chance for extra credit and things of that nature. So we want to help you avoid all of that. So everybody learns differently. But here are a few tools that might help you. For example, flashcards. If you have to learn vocabulary or definitions, you may write the word on one side of the flashcard and then the definition on the back. And then you can quiz yourself by keep repeating it and then saying it out loud. I cannot repeat how important it is to say things out loud so that you can hear your voice say it and it can get into your mind and into your system, so it helps you learn. You can get flashcards at like the dollar store or the 99-cent store or some inexpensive place like that to do it. Or you can make your own by just cutting up a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper and folding it up and just making your own flashcards. In addition, repeat. Repeat your work. So yes, you were able to copy along what the teacher did in class and you got the answer. However, you need to be able to do it fast. As I said before, you're not going to have all day to take quizzes or tests. So either you know it or you don't. And the only way to get good at, just like you get good at football games or you get good at playing your PlayStation or your other game system or Xbox, is because you've repeated it. You've done it multiple times. So for me, I don't have an Xbox, so I would have to take my time hooking everything up, seeing what cord goes where, make sure I got the HDMI cable in, hooking up the internet so the Wi-Fi connects to the game so I don't get cut off in Call of Duty. However, if you've done it and you've done it multiple times, you could come over to my house and hook it up in a matter of 2 minutes. And that's because you have experience. So you have to gain experience with what your homework is. Another helpful tip that helped me out in school, especially in math classes and other classes, is that I would write down everything that the teacher wrote on the board in class. And then I would go home and rewrite it in my own words. And if I could follow along with those examples, oftentimes what's going to be on the test is a derivation or a slight adjustment or modification as to what was on the board in class or what was in your homework. So first and foremost, before we talk any further, you have to do your homework and you have to take notes in class. So you got to be awake, you got to take notes, and you have to pay attention. And also, if you're in the middle of class and the teacher says something that you don't quite understand, you have to raise your hand. You can't be shy. And if you don't want to raise your hand, or if you don't have an opportunity to raise your hand, you have to go up to your teacher after class and talk to them and say, hey, you know what? When you went over problem number 4 from the homework or problem number 5, I didn't quite get it. Could you please explain it to me again? Or could you please explain what you meant when you said this word and you said we should do things like this? Or if you don't know what your homework is or you're not quite sure when it's due, ask the teacher, when is it due? How is it to be turned in? Do I have to do a bibliography? Do I have to do, a report? Do I have to have a binder on it? Make sure you get things straight, because if you have homework, for example, and the teacher gives it to you on Friday and it's due on Monday, a report, who are you going to ask over the weekend? To get the exact answer. You can ask your friends, but if they got it all wrong too, right, that's not going to help you. In addition, if you're having problems in class, look to find out if your school has a tutoring program where you can go after class or during lunch and get tutoring from your teacher or from more knowledgeable people that can help you. you want to take advantage of that. Also, a lot of libraries have after school tutoring programs that help students for free. Again, they have them for free. But if you don't show up and take advantage, then you're not going to benefit. In addition, you may want to join a study group if you're like in high school or college or something like that. Now, again, if you are getting D's in the class, you forming a study group with other people getting D's may not be the best study group for you to be in. You need to be in a group with people that are doing better than you or that are striving to do better and have different study habits than you have. If you have a low grade in a math class or an English class and someone else has a low grade and they study, for a few hours on Friday night or Saturday morning and that's it, you may need to get with someone that has a different habit than you. Also, it's very beneficial because you can learn from people that are doing well in the class on how you can improve your grades. But you have to be willing to listen and you have to be willing to try something new. For example, if you're getting a D or F in the class and you show up in your study group and you say, hey, they say, hey, check this out. We're going to do all these problems, we're going to redo them, and we are going to it may take some time, but we're going to do them 3 or 4 times. And you say, well, you know what, I usually just do my problem one time. Well, that's why you get D's and F's. So you have to go along with what people that are excelling in the class do if you want to do better. So you have to get out of your comfort zone and you have to be humble enough to listen, meaning that you can't be prideful, you can't be boasting and say and think you're a know-it-all when apparently your grades show you don't know it all and you barely even know what's in the class. So we want to overcome all that and make sure that we work hard and effectively. Also, we want to make the best use of our time when we're studying. Sometimes if you have a final exam or a midterm, you may need to put in a lot of time studying. However, as Daniel was saying, if you put in a little bit of time every week, a few hours per class, when it comes down to the midterm, you don't have to go back and go through everything as if you've never read it. And that's called cramming. So if you guys are young, you've never heard it. Cramming is basically if every week of your class, your teacher told you read chapter 1 the first week, read chapter 2 the second week, read chapter 3 the third week, and the fourth week we're going to have a test on the first 3 chapters, and you haven't read them, then what you're going to be doing is reading them all, trying to do all your homework at the last minute. That's called cramming. And cramming is a very hard task on your body. It makes you nervous. It makes you worried. And then you may get through all the material, and by the time the test comes, you put your body and yourself through so much stress that you're unable to retain and remember all the information. So what benefit would it be to go through all this stuff and then you can't even remember for the exam? So what we're trying to do is give you tips on how you can be proactive, do things in advance, and walk into the test smooth. I remember taking the test a few times in school where I didn't do well because I hadn't prepared properly. But I remember other tests taking them where I walked in and I felt comfortable, I felt confident, I had no problems. But I had friends that were nervous and things of that nature, and I knew they were feeling like that because they hadn't prepared properly. And so we want you to avoid all that. You don't have to go through and make the same mistakes that I made and that Daniel made in life. You can, forget all that by just listening carefully to what we're trying to share with you and taking advantage of it. Also, this is just a short video just giving you insight into some of the things that we cover at our meetings. But if you really want to get the in-depth knowledge and understanding that can only be gained by coming, we encourage you to come to our meetings and be a part of it and really dedicate yourself to it. We will be meeting up again in Inglewood, California. We are open to the public. We'll be recruiting. We'll have documents and brochures available for you to check us out. You can always see more and learn more about us on our Facebook page, on our website, malementor.org. That's www.malementor.org, and find out about us because it pays to be a part of a positive organization, also to be around positive young men that are striving to achieve something in life. You want to associate yourself with people that want something out of life. You want to say something?
Yes. And the wanted to reiterate, Don was mentioning about the study groups. So everything that we discussed be in front of the study group, which was the using the flashcards, repeating, writing, and the tutoring, all that can be done within the study group. Don mentioned that you would want to step outside of your comfort zone and join the right study group. I would heavily encourage everybody who's listening to this to think about that if you're studying or you know somebody else in your family or in your circle who's studying. And want to reiterate that just like Don mentioned, if you're looking to become a part of something that's positive in the community, if you don't like what you're seeing out in the community, uh, you can do something about it. You can come join with us. So that's my piece.
Oh, and one other thing I was going to say, Daniel brought up a very good point. If you're going to a study group, be prepared before you go to the study group. So if the study group is on chapter 1, read chapter 1 before you go to the study group. If the study group is to go over the homework assigned for a certain chapter, at least try to do the homework. If there's 10 problems, don't do one and then say, I don't understand 2 through 10, I couldn't do anything. At least try. Because otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're wasting everyone else's time when you don't try. And no one can give you things that are in your head. You have to reach out and grab it and say, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to attain in life. So you have to be confident in yourself. You have to decide in yourself, this is what I want. I'm willing to do what it takes to make it happen, and then go for it. So with that being said, we are done discussing the benefits of studying. However, we will go in more depth in this topic when we resume in the fall our meetings. Continue to follow us, like us, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
Thank you.